The story of WeWork, the company that claimed to reinvent the workplace and which at one point rose to a valuation of a whopping $47 billion, is the story of technological development in the current stratospheric valuation reality. It is what happens when certain innovative companies are assessed as being worth fantastic amounts of money based on a number of superficial indicators, which nonetheless seem to be agreed upon by many of the dominant investors. Interestingly, instead of WeWork becoming a cautionary tale about how high-tech companies are being overvalued in our current financial market, it is being framed as a one-off case which, thanks to one person's strong charisma and perhaps manipulativeness and an unusual set of circumstances, managed to slip through the cracks. This framing seems to ensure that no real lesson will be learned from this case and that the party of stratospheric valuations will go on. WeWork was founded in 2010 by Adam Neumann and Miguel McIvey. It asked to reinvent the workplace of the current era. Among other things, it asked to change the settings in which people work, the look of these new workplaces, the dynamics between people working in these spaces, and the general atmosphere of such workplaces. In later stages, the company also tried to reinvent how young people live with We Live and how children are educated with We Grow. But since the company's core operations have always been focused on the reinvention of the workplace, this video will only focus on that. WeWork started, as many startups do, with slow-paced progress in realizing its vision while increasing its valuation in a very measured way. It banked on the availability of empty real estate after the 2008 economic crisis and on the demand for workspace by freelancers and young people starting new companies. While rapid expansion was always part of its goals, it was not until February of 2014 that its valuation started to accelerate and departed from the regular expectations of a growing company. This is when inflated valuations got into high gear. What justified this accelerated valuation? WeWork's main expansion was achieved by leasing more and more properties and transforming them according to its design models. Indeed, the expansion to new properties and new countries was very rapid. Yet these leases could have been seen as a liability to the same extent they could have been seen as a promise. WeWork's long-term leases stood in contrast to its short-term tenants, such that it wasn't hard to imagine that should another economic downturn occur, or maybe another type of crisis, WeWork would find itself with lots of empty spaces, but still footing the bill for rent. Another factor that investors seem to bank on when dramatically increasing WeWork's valuation was that it started to be earmarked for securing a monopolistic position. The idea was that its insatiable appetite for property leasing and its fast company growth would do something similar to what Facebook did in social media. That is, take a dominant piece of the market. As ugly as it may seem, banking on a potential monopolistic position isn't far-fetched in our current economic system, in which the regulator is reluctant to prevent monopolies. Yet it should be noted that while Facebook can bank on a critical mass feature of social media, WeWork cannot. For social media users, switching to a competing service, for instance, one with better privacy, is very hard because your network needs to move along with you in order to make it work. With WeWork, there isn't such a dynamic. Should a competitor of WeWork open next door and offer the same sleek design and vibrant atmosphere, but at a lower price, the incentive not to switch is low. Once WeWork's valuation started to accelerate, the party really started, and this acceleration only strengthened with time. In contrast to what some retrospective analysis about WeWork argues, this stratospheric valuation was not the sole work of Adam Neumann. Far from it. Many of the business community and the media are happy to play the role of kingmakers and to declare the next hot thing. Investors generally adopt an uncritical stance towards business models and fall repeatedly into groupthink traps, in which an idea seems logical only because it is consensual within that certain group. Investors, big and small, often make their decision based on heuristics or group mentality. Moreover, even when investors realize there is a bubble, it often doesn't seem to discourage them, as they believe they can ride the tiger. Get out before things get ugly. Adam Neumann may be a charismatic person and a smooth talker, but isn't the business community supposed to be hard-nosed, no bullshit group of people? Can't large investors see through the reinventionist, almost spiritual, nonsensical discourse that Neumann offered about reinventing the workplace? Of course they can. Only they wanted to buy into the dream as much as he wanted to sell it. They wanted to get in on the deal before it blows. And this means that in the meantime, they were prepared to support the stratospheric valuation. The WeWork bubble finally burst when, in the process of going public through an IPO, the company had to disclose business information that was kept private up to that point. This exposure was extremely damaging since it revealed problematic business practices, an unclear path to profitability, and a weak business model. Its valuation dropped sharply, and yesterday's sweetheart became today's focus of criticism. One important critique was that it never was a high-tech company as it pretended to be, so it never deserved the stratospheric valuation. Indeed, breaking down the innovation in WeWork's reinvention of the workplace, technology had little role in it. Putting aside the social network that they created, which seemed to have been a flop, the rest of it had tenuous link to high-tech. Sleek designs with lots of glass, through which you can see the people all around you, isn't more high-techy than ugly designs and walled offices, except that it does seem to appeal to high-tech oriented workers. So does flexible renting of workspaces for short periods of time. That is, WeWork seems to cater to young people working in and around the high-tech community and to the desire to see and come in contact with individuals similar to them while working on individual projects. It gave people some of the working at Google experience while working on their own modest endeavors, or at least something that came close. In any case, it is clear that this reinvention of the workplace is something that may appeal to a limited group of workers working in alienated settings. Plus, it can provide a temporary solution for established companies in need of short-term office space. Yet focusing on the fact that WeWork wasn't a high-tech company misses much of the point. Stratospheric valuations of high-tech companies makes as little sense as those of non-high-tech ones. The idea that a company can reinvent a given technology in a revolutionary way is highly unrealistic and serves as a feeble justification for these stratospheric valuations. The logic being, we will bring to the market a product or service so unlike anything that exists that everyone will want it. In reality, these valuations bank on growth models that range between the unrealistic to the immoral. The unrealistic being that a company can grow and become profitable to stratospheric heights using fair business practices, and the immoral being the conscious support of unfair, disenfranchising, shady, and monopolistic business practices. While WeWork represents an extreme case of stratospheric valuation, this phenomenon is becoming widespread. Alongside every WeWork case, there are dozens of more modest unicorns, that is, privately held startups that are valuated at $1 billion or more, that defy logic just as well. A separate video will be dedicated to these unicorns soon. At the end of the day, WeWork reinvented the workplace just as other companies reinvented their field. They introduced measured changes that were built on many existing concepts. Any self-claim to revolutionize how people do things using a service or a product should always be treated with skepticism by workers, investors, and society as a whole. It specifically shouldn't serve as a justification for stratospheric valuation, which, as mentioned, serve as a self-fulfilling prophecy. Valuation isn't just a future promise. It is also money in the present. Money given to a small group of managers with bold claims. It is a recipe for disaster.